The story begins with a girl standing still, lost in thought. I'm like a tool for those people. No, in fact, a tool might have been better. Well, that was the case from the beginning. But I never had any expectations. I was always just a tool. Because no emotions are put into disposable things. Then she folds her hands and, while praying, says, I don't want to. I hope all of them suffer. To save themselves, she pushed me into the abyss. Those guys trampled on me a lot. I will never forgive them. That's why I will agree to make a contract with you. At that moment, the evil god's gaze fell upon her, and he appeared and said, I like this. My contractor. The most powerful and renowned magical family in the Empire, unrivaled in magic. The magical power is passed down through the family Lord Bell. It is something every wizard dreams of. Its influence knows no bounds. He was truly the strongest emperor, the head of the family who led prosperity and glory. Duke Ego Jord Bell, the eldest heir of the family, became a sword master. Estio Jord Bell, the leader and strongest magic knight of the Lord Bells, second son Bansi's Jord Bell, and she was the family's treasure, beloved by all, and inherited all of their magical talents. Miracle Lord Bell. A little girl stands in front of a picture, lost in thought. They were my dreams, my wishes. Even if I couldn't join the circle, I always wanted to be in the circle of the Lord Bells. Even if I was an illegitimate child, I was always judged by other people. Somehow, even if I touched something, they were always disgusted by it. Even that was tolerable for me, because I had a dream. Then suddenly she started running. I want to do my best for a little more. I want to do my best for a little more. I believed they would look back at me, even for once. Then she recalls that, her father said, Lucia, thank God you are here. I am really happy that you are my daughter. I'd waited for a whole year to hear these words from my father. A soft smile. Finally, my wish came true. However, what is that? I wonder what today is. At that moment, Bansi's came and said, Hey, trash girl. Stop struggling and rushing. I prepared the flower path for you. Then he smiled and said, Today is the last day. I will smell that disgusting scent from you. You must be excited, right? Then Estio came and, stopping him, said, Be careful what you say and do, in front of father. However, as you say, she is a waste of time. I guarantee that. Lucia, it's time to complete your mission. Well, as usual, until the end. Hearing this, Lucia speaks. Your complexion never changes. I can't believe you can say so easily. To someone, jump and die. The abyss. To the abyss. Its deep and wide holes appear endless. A secret place where only a few people in Lord Bell know of its existence. Hundreds of years ago, the first Lord Bells sealed the evil gods in this abyss, saving the world, and gave the Lord Bell family special powers so they could enjoy wealth and fame. But there was only one critical problem. Once every 100 years, a member of the Lord Bell bloodline must be sacrificed to the abyss. At that moment, she lost in thought. I was stupid to have expectations, even for a moment. I guess all my efforts have been for nothing after all. Then she asked, And father's wishes are the same? Her father, Duke Ego, replied, Lucia, if your soul's sacrifice will continue the glory of our family, it proves your life was worth it. So consider it a glorious death. Hearing this, Lucia added, If this death is so glorious, I'd like my brother to take my place. Then she shouted loudly, Or, father's beloved, miracle. At that moment, her father, Duke Ego, slapped her. Then her father said, You filthy bastard. You have no right to speak my child's name, even if you are a lowlife. I thought I could show you mercy at the end. Lucia shouted loudly, I am your daughter too, aren't I? If you ever thought of me as your daughter, you wouldn't have done this, would you? Her father says, I've never thought of you as my daughter. I kept you alive only for this day. You're nothing but a disgrace to me. If you understand, don't struggle any longer and give yourself up quickly. Only in death will you become worthy of the Lord Bell family. Hearing all this, Lucia began to think, I can't die like this. Even the only life I have left is being used against me. But I can't even use magic. I don't know how to get away. Suddenly, Miracle came and said, Father and my brothers are here too. Her father says, Miracle, you can't go out like that. Miracle added, But I don't want to leave your side. Her father says, You're all terrible. I didn't want to bring you here. You know what's going to happen, don't you? At that moment, Lucia stood up and running, began heading toward the abyss, lost in thought. This is no time for pathetic feelings. Everyone's distracted by miracle, while I still can. Then she jumped into the abyss. My body just… No way. Miracle. Meanwhile, Miracle looked back and said, "Goodbye, Lucia." She continued thought. I just wanted to be. I just wanted to be part of the family. That's all I wanted. After a little while, the evil god appeared in the abyss. He held Lucia in his arms and smiled as he said, Something strange happened. Something interesting had fallen. She was unconscious. When she was falling into the abyss, she was lost in thought. It was destined to happen after all. I never knew who my parents were. I was born in a red light district and brought up in the lowest class. I was 9 years old and somehow survived by begging. That day, when the bitter cold struck, I thought my life was over. But then, I woke up. I found myself wrapped in warmth, inside the Lorbell family's villa. I had no idea why they helped me. It didn't matter. I was never hungry again. I had a place to stay, somewhere I could escape the cold. It felt like a dream, and when I heard that I actually had a family, I felt like I had everything in the world. But that sweet dream of an illegitimate child was shattered in an instant. I shouted loudly, "Please, open up!" A year after I came to the Lorbell family, Bansies locked me in a room full of vipers, just to torment me. I was so terrified that I begged again and again for help. The door creaked open. I was poisoned on the verge of death, and I lost my sense of taste in the aftermath. Later, Father finally spoke out against Bansies' brutality. Refrain from such mischief. You will be putting yourself in danger as well. When I realized that his only concern was his son, the perpetrator, in an act that could have taken the life of a child, I finally realized the position I was in. I could never be a part of their family. I should have known from the very beginning. Why didn't I give up hope? Maybe I should have tried harder. But it's all in the past now. After a little while, the evil god appeared in the abyss. He held Lucia in his arms and smiled as he said, Something strange happened. Something interesting had fallen. She was unconscious. Then, after some time, when Lucia opened her eyes, she was shocked and began to think, what happened? I'm sure I fell into the abyss. So how am I still alive? It feels like my body is floating in the air. Right. Then suddenly, the evil god said, It feels like your body is floating in the air. Right. Because this world is not like that one. Are you surprised? You're quite timid. Anyway, thank you for your hard work. I'm glad you came. I hope you like the darkness. Perhaps you're… Lucia speaks. Perhaps you're… The evil god said to be sealed in the abyss? Evil god says, This isn't the time for this, is it? You've got to use your head a bit. At that moment, he moved closer to her and added, It's boring, isn't it? Lucia said, Certainly. I don't care who you are. It doesn't change the fact that they are the ones who reap my life. Then she think, There's no doubt about it. This person is the evil god sealed in the abyss. But I never thought he would have such a beautiful form. Is he planning to kill me after toying with me? All I want is a peaceful death and a quiet sleep. And yet, I'm struggling to even do that. He moved closer to her and speaks, What are you thinking so hard about? There's no point in thinking about it when you're a weakling. All you have to do is listen to me. Remember, after using and deceiving you, the scion of Lorbell who pushed you down here, wouldn't you like to ruin their lives with your own hands? Lucia says. In other words, revenge? I can't do that, evil god said. Yes, you can. You have me. Why should you worry? They continue to enjoy glory at the cost of your life, and they continue to enjoy happiness, to the hilt. The Lorbell family was built to perfection. It's all just a sand castle built on your sacrifice. It must have been very hard for you to escape death. Hearing all this, she asked, What do you want? I know you won't help me without something in return. Evil god replied, Yes, this is a deal and a contract. In exchange for my help, you help me get out of here, so I can escape this boring, lonely darkness. Only you can do that. She speaks. I don't have the power you're looking for. I can't use the Lorbell blessing, or even their magic. It's worthless. Evil God smiled and says, "You have no idea what you're talking about. Or should I say, you never even knew. All your magic was taken from you. You've been living as a shell, unaware of your true gift. We need to find out who did this to you." Hearing this, she began to think, what does that mean? I had magic powers too? And someone took them from me? Who the hell? At that moment, Evil God speaks. "Lucia, you only have one thing to think about. Your hatred for Lord Bell." Then he placed his hand on his eyes and added, "You've been suppressing your true feelings. Now it's time to reveal them." Then the worst words she had thought of came to her. "I don't want to die. I wish they could all die. Those people who pushed me into the abyss to protect themselves, I will never forgive them," she said. "That's why I'll do it. The contract with you." Hearing this, Evil God smiled and says, "I like this." At that moment, crimson waves of magic erupted from every direction. He moved close to her and added, "I'll tell you one thing. No matter how much blood is spilled, no matter how many screams you hear, you'll be the last one to survive." Then the Evil God kissed her and said, "Until we meet again." She went back in time. Then she shouted loudly, "Please somebody open the door. Why are you doing this? The snake is almost here. Open the door." It was Bansi's Lord Bell. Hearing this, Bansi smiled and asked, "That's quite a reaction today. What do you think? Surely she'll cry this time, won't she?" Servant smiled and replied, "Of course. The little lord asked me to bring him a vicious snake. It's worth it, isn't it?" Then he began to think. He was very demanding that I bring him one. The only snake capable of such a daredevil act is the cart, so, well, he won't care if it's poisoned or not. After a while, Servant asked, "What's the matter?" Bansi's replied, "You idiot! Don't you get it? She was making a fuss earlier, but she's suddenly gone quiet." Servant said, "She must have been bitten by the snake and fainted. It would be difficult for a 10-year-old like Lucia to subdue a snake." Hearing this, Bansi's began to think, "Scum! What kind of a Lord Bell would die from the mere bite of a snake? What the hell did father want with her?" Then Bansi speaks, "Go and check her out. If she faints, I won't be able to see her crying face." Servant says, "Understood." At that moment, Bansi's took a deep breath and asked, "What kind of story shall I make up next?" Servant think, "Huh! That's strange. I thought she got bit near the door." Then Bansi's asked, "What are you just standing there like that for?" Servant replied, "Well, it looks like she was bitten by a snake in the back. There may still be snakes inside, so please be careful." Bansi stepped forward and said, "I'm sure you guys are worried because you can't use magic, but do you think I, a direct descendant of Lord Bell, would be killed by a snake?" Servant says, "Sorry, I was so worried that I ended up saying something unnecessary. I'm sorry if I've offended you. Please forgive me." The door opened suddenly, and a cloth bundle fell outside. When Bansi saw it, went over to it, and asked, "What the hell is this? It's clearly coming from the inside, isn't it?" Then there was some movement inside the bundle. Bansi said, "It's moving a lot. Is there something in it?" Suddenly, when the bundle was opened, a snake came out and bit the servant, and he shouted loudly, "Young master! That's dangerous! Young master! Please help me! Please!" Bansi's asked, "What the?" At that moment, Lucia came out from behind the door and speaks, "You've finally opened the door." Bansi's. Then she began to think, I really went back in time. This is the servant who released the snake into my room back then. Bansi's, who bullied me so much, is still the same. The only thing that's changed is not me who loses my sense of taste, it's the servant. Then she recalled the evil god's words, "I'll help you." That's what that word meant. Bansi saw her and thought, this is Lucia? There's something different about her. No way. Am I scared of Lucia? Me, the direct descendant? That can't be true. Then he drew her sword and cut the snake's head off. He said, "You're surprisingly good. I never thought you'd be this clever. I've seen some interesting things, so I'll let you off the hook this time. You should be thankful for my generous heart." Lucia saw him and was lost in thought, putting up a fake face to hide his weakness, to the point of being impulsive and unable to control his emotions. "Yes, that's the kind of person you are, Bansi's." Then she speaks, "I was scared of you. I always thought so. But now I see that you are not such a big deal." Bansi's. Hearing this, he smiled and said, "I think you've finally lost your mind. The snakes got you, didn't they? You know that yourself, right?" Lucia says, You're not as smart as the other son, or as well liked as Miracle. If I were to take the name, Lord Bell, from you. Hearing this, he drew his sword at her. Lucia asked, "What's the difference between you and me?" He got angry, his magic emerged, and he asked, "How dare you? You talk to me like that?" Then she lost in thought. In a few years, he'll likely stand out with his magic arts, a combination of Lord Bell's magical powers and swordsmanship. But that's a long way off. He speaks. You maggot-like thing and I, a direct descendant, are on the same level? She continued thought. For now, he's just a kid, who can't even take a challenge like this. And thanks to his inexperience, he can't even handle his own magic properly. At that moment, he raised her sword and shouted loudly, "I'm going to make you pay for this. I'm not like you." Then he attacked Lucia, but Lucia survived. She began to think, because that person will know about it. What an abomination. Stupid Bansies. You, in this life, will become a stepping stone for me to take my revenge. Suddenly a man came and said, "I believe I already told you that using magic or sword outside the class is strictly forbidden. Surely you haven't forgotten, don't you? Young Master Bansies," Bansies says. No way I'm forgetting about that. I did it because something happened," he speaks. In addition, why don't you give an explanation about this situation? Of course, I hope I can be satisfied with your answer. You'd come. Then Lucia smiled and began to think. I knew you'd come. Ligrin Fedrant. That's just the way you are. There are two ways to deal with those who are born as rulers in this world. Whether they are born to be at the apex of society, or by having authority bestowed upon them from those who are at the apex. In the case of Ligrin Fedrant, during this period, he's the number 2 of the Lord Bell family, a figure who could be considered the ruler of shadows. He serves as the head butler and assistant of the head of the Lord Bell family, to the point where he's entrusted with the education of the direct descendants. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say he's the person the head trusts the most. Since that kind of person came all the way here, he must have felt the unskilled magic coming from Bansies before breakfast. If it were my previous self, I would have been satisfied just seeing Bansies in this state. But I couldn't care less about that petty goal anymore. Then Lucia stepped forward and speaks. Head butler, would you mind if I give the explanation instead? Because it seems like my brother is still shaken by what happened earlier. Ligrin Fedran asked. You are going to stand in his place? She replied. Precisely. Only if you allow me. For someone who has control over the Lord Bell family, there's absolutely no way he wouldn't understand this situation. Even so, he heartlessly left the servant, who got bitten by a venomous snake. There's only one reason why he didn't check the condition of the child who could have been seriously injured by the sword. The child has no value worthy of his attention. On top of that, if he's truly imbued with the Lord Bell's sense of values, the only thing that has caught this man's attention right now would be disciplining Bansies. Since Bansies is a direct descendant of the Lord Bells, he needs to point out Bansies' foolishness. One day, a crack will appear in this solid Lord Bell family. It's just a matter of time. However, even though I carry the blood of the head of the family, if I, who is believed to have no talent, is protecting Bansies and explaining the situation in a favorable light for him, Ligrin will probably think like this. Perhaps this child isn't just a good-for-nothing after all. That's the end of the story. After a while, she said, I'm hoping you'll be lenient against my brother. My brother was only protecting me from a snake, and without realizing it, he used his magic. I doubt there's any venomous snake inside the Lord Bell estate. Don't you think it's unimaginable? Then Ligrin Fedran asked, Is there something you want to say, young master? Bansies replied, Nothing in particular. Ligrin Fedran added, This matter doesn't seem to be something I can judge on my own. I'll report this to the head of the family. For the two of you, please wait until the head's decision is out. Then she speaks. Lucia. He looked back. She smiled and says, My name is Lucia. When you report to the head, please make sure to mention my name. Ligrin Fedran said, I'll keep that in mind. Then she lost in thought. I've done everything I could. Now that I've finally made my presence known to Unkin, I'll be able to move easier onward. It doesn't matter how long it will take. I will set the stage for my vengeance and witness his devastating end. Lord Bell, you should definitely look forward to it. The next day, the room is quiet. Sunlight streams through tall windows. She began to think, this is the first time The first time I was able to speak my mind so boldly to those two. In my past life, I never would have imagined the look on Bansi's face after Ligren left. It was priceless. Then she saw a bundle of cloth. At that moment, she recalls that. Bansi shouted loudly. A mere illegitimate child. Why did you lie like that? Say something. In the end, he's just a kid. Then she recalls that I speaks that. If you want to know so badly, I'll tell you. You probably think that I was throwing you a lifeline. I would go out of my way to do something nice for you, the one who hurt me? Don't flatter yourself. I only said what I did for my own sake. I'd rather die than get caught up in unnecessary trouble because of you. That arrogance of yours, do you have any idea how disgusting and revolting it is? You probably don't even realize it yourself. If Bansi starts to avoid me because of this incident, then I couldn't ask for more. But that might be wishful thinking, if only the solution were that simple. Then she remembers the words spoken by Bansi's. Now you're just a toy to keep me entertained. When will you finally realize that? You fool. Now's not the time to think. If Ligren reported yesterday's incident, then the Duke is bound to summon me soon. Some time later, she was lost in thought, following Ligren. Everything went according to my plan yesterday, so he's probably heading to the Duke's office right now. But why send Ligren instead of a servant? Why did he come to summon me personally? Then suddenly Ligren stopped and said, If I may, I want to ask you, why did you do that to me yesterday? Don't try to dodge the question by saying it was for young Master Bansi's. Don't expect me to overlook things like I did yesterday. Hearing this, she think, so it wasn't over after all. When an intense situation develops, and an unexpected event is added, the tension often impairs people's judgment. No matter how rational their decision may seem, in the end, they are only choosing the best option available at that moment. An ordinary person wouldn't even realize this, but Ligren must have sensed something was off right away. The actions he thought he decided on his own were actually guided by someone else's intentions. Realizing that must have made it incredibly difficult for him to come to me. At that moment, she stepped forward and speaks. I apologize. I will take full responsibility for my own mistakes. Ligren asked, So does that mean, Lucia, that you really? Hearing this, she think again. But there's no need to go that far just yet. Then she bowed and replied, For now, I just wanted the head butler to remember my name. This much is enough. Ligren speaks. You did all that, just for something so trivial? For what purpose? She added. If I were truly a member of this family, I wouldn't have lied to the head butler. If I failed to earn his recognition, I could simply blame it on my own inadequacy. But I am a child of the Lord. How could I ever allow my immaturity to tarnish his name? Even if I am insulted and denied acknowledgement, I am still undeniably a member of the Lord Bell family. Ligren says, I understand what you are trying to say. However, it seems you are mistaken about one thing. You may take pride in being a member of the Lord Bell family, but you should not speak those words so easily. No matter how small the matter, you must always obtain his approval first, except for Ego Lord Bell, the head of the house. This door is sealed with a special enchantment, ensuring that no one may enter unless granted permission by the Lord himself. The only ones allowed in here are a select few, including myself, as well as the Lord's sons and daughters. Even mentioning the Lord's bloodline is beyond your place. Do you understand now? Then he took his hand, moved forward, and said, So remember this well. Right now, you have neither the right nor the authority to do that. As soon as her hand moved forward, a magic circle appeared. Then he said, So, remember this well. Right now, you have neither the right nor the authority to do that. The pattern will appear in an hour. Consider this a temporary chance I'm giving you. Prove it. Prove that all the effort I've put into you wasn't wasted. The door opened, and she went inside. The Duke was standing there. At that moment, she lost in thought, deprived of affection. No words described me better at that time. Father. Just once, I wanted to feel a father's love. Just once, I wanted him to acknowledge me. That's why I never stopped calling him father. Father. Even in the end, though I was mocked and despised, it was fine. At least now, I realize how foolish I was back then. After a while, she bowed and then asked, You called for me? Your Grace, the Duke. Then Duke said angrily, I heard from Ligren. It seems there was some commotion. Something that trivial shouldn't become gossip that tarnishes the Lord Bell name. Rumors have a way of getting blown out of proportion. Then he started writing something. Hearing this, she think, he's still the same as ever. Because of Bansies, I almost got bitten by a venomous snake. That could have been a real disaster. The only thing that matters to him is the Lord Bell family's honor. This is how he rules as the head of the household. I was left alone in solitude. No matter how loudly this 11-year-old illegitimate child screamed, he knew no one would listen. Even the smallest glimmer of hope, he would snatch it away. A cold man who calls for me only to scold me. He always does this, giving me hope, only to push me into the abyss. If he's such a ruthless head of the family, then why does he still let me stay in this house? Because I once believed there had to be a reason. Maybe he truly loved my mother. Maybe, deep down, he actually saw me as his daughter. That naive hope kept me from severing my last remaining attachment to him. He used my foolishness, my desperate craving for affection, all while planning this from the start. If I, the intended sacrifice, ran away or died, his entire plan would fall apart. That's why he made sure I survived. After a while, he asked, "Do you not understand what I'm saying? Where's your answer?" She replied calmly, "I apologize for the disturbance, but you don't need to worry," he said. "I'll be leaving now." Then she began to think again. "Your business here might be done. But now it's my turn. The truth is, I came here for this moment." Suddenly, she asked, "I have one request, Your Grace, the Duke." He asked, "A request?" Then he said, "If you're going to waste my time, you'd better make it worthwhile." Hearing this, she clenched her fist and said, "Thank you? In that case, please remove me from this family. The sooner, the better." Hearing this, he clenched his fist and says angrily, "Say that again." She speaks, "I want my name erased from the family registry." He asked, "Do you understand what you're saying?" She replied, "Of course. I've thought it over countless times before coming here." Then she began to think, his reaction says it all. Looks like I hit a nerve. Well, it's only natural. He never expected me to say this. But the situation now is nothing like before. I already know my role in bringing glory to the Lord Bell family. In other words, I hold an irreplaceable value in this house. The crimson-eyed girl. That's me, Lucia Lord Bell. So you'd better start reworking your plans, Duke Ego Lord Bell. Then she came outside and saw Ligren standing in front of her. At that moment, Ligren asked, "Did the conversation go well, Lady Lucia?" Lucia replied, "Yes, all thanks to the head butler. I truly appreciate it." Then she asked, "Is there something you wish to say?" Ligren replied, "No, that won't be necessary. I already know how this will end. In that case, let's return to your room. Everyone has a place where they belong. Consider today's events a lesson. Take this time to reflect on your position." Hearing all this, Lucia said, "Yes, I will." Then suddenly, Ligren opened the door and walked away. Lucia remained standing there, staring at the door. 10 minutes ago. Duke Ego speaks. "So, all you did was waste my time. I don't have the luxury to entertain pointless thoughts," Lucia said. "In other words," Duke added, "I do not permit you to leave the Lord Bell family." Lucia says, "Please, I beg you to reconsider." "I truly. How bold of you to challenge a decision I have already made." Duke asked, "Do you think you have the right to do so?" Lucia replied, "My deepest apologies. I only wanted to avoid bringing trouble to this family. That's why I asked to be removed from the family register. But in the end, I was nothing but an insolent fool. I will accept any punishment without complaint." Duke says, "Explain why you want to be removed from the family register. I will determine your punishment accordingly. You said you've thought about this for a long time. But if it was only yesterday's minor incident that led to this decision, then be prepared to face the consequences." Hearing this, Lucia said, "I am deeply grateful for your Grace's generosity and broad-mindedness. However, if I may explain my reason for making this request, my existence is the only stain upon your Grace." Then Duke asked, "What do you mean?" She replied, "I am well aware of it. A true member of the Lord Bell family must be someone who has no shortcomings, and fulfills their duties without fail. Their sole purpose is to elevate the name of Lord Bell. That is their reason for existing. And yet, despite receiving your Grace's generosity, and being granted the privilege of living in this grand estate, I have done nothing but tarnish the family's honor with my inadequacies, because I caused doubts within the family. Even my mere presence has cast doubt on your decision to bring me here. Something like that must never happen. That is why, I beg you remove me from the family register. Tears were flowing from her eyes. Hearing all this, Duke speaks. As I expected, this was a waste of time. Your way of thinking has been flawed from the start. Therefore, I will not entertain any more talk about your desire to leave this family. The decisions I make within this house are absolute, including my decision to bring you here. So fulfill your duties properly, Lucia. That is my final ruling on this matter. At that moment, she stood there, lost in thought. I knew from the start my request would be denied. But this was something I had to confront sooner or later. The only way to improve my standing in this house is to obey the Duke's orders, and to do that, I need a justification that serves me, not just meaningless pity. I am not a pitiful fool seeking the Duke's affection. I am proving that I understand my place, and am willing to be this family's loyal hound. Soon enough, a chance will come. I even dared to request removal from the family register, to show my resolve. If I remained obedient like in my past life, then tearing down the Lord Bell's stronghold would be impossible. For now, I must prepare for the day. My worth as a member of the Lord Bell family will be tested. I have to give everything to achieve that. After a while, she smiled and said, Even so, was I being too reckless? Then she thought again. I know the Duke will never cast me aside, but angering him is a huge risk. Until the day I am sacrificed comes, there are still many ways to keep me bound to this place. As long as I remain alive, I can still play my role. But that would only be the Duke's last resort. He is a shrewd man. After a while, the Duke's gaze fell upon what he had written. Possibility of an escape attempt, necessary countermeasures, reinforced security around the confinement area, possible reckless or impulsive actions. There is a curse placed upon those of the Lord Bell bloodline, one known as rampage. Even those deemed geniuses have a destiny to fulfill. If someone were born with such latent potential that they could even relegate affairs of significance to mere trivial pastime, that would be undeniable proof that the Lord Bell blood flows within them. However, even that boundless blessing had a fatal flaw. The Lord Bells, despite being so immensely powerful, must weather the unpredictable side effects of that same power. In exchange for such power, their deaths are tragic and dark, the polar opposite of their brilliance. Then she lost in thought. What triggers the curse remains unknown, unless immediate measures are taken to rein in the rampaging individual. That person will ultimately die. It seems that this terrifying trait is what made the Duke unable to just abandon me. If some kind of problem arises, and I go on a rampage. She was standing in front of her family picture. Suddenly, she started walking and lost in thought. One of them needs to be chosen to be the next sacrifice. I've already done all I can. It'll probably be some time before the Duke changes my circumstances. First, I should begin by looking into methods to undo the evil God's seal on him. He's the one who facilitated my revenge. Because of that, I will put my all into granting his wish. It's the condition of our contract, after all. Since that's the case, there's only one place I need to go. At that moment, she stopped in front of a door and began to think. In this world, a library is believed to hold all the truths. Lord Bell Library. I'm amazed every time I see it. It's built on a scale comparable to a castle. It was originally built for the progenitor of the Lord Bell family, a woman with a keen interest in reading. The dedication of all her successors, who poured their all into this library to carry on her will, has allowed it to now stand as one of the 3 major libraries of the empire. For that reason, management strictly limits who can enter. However, then she stepped forward. As soon as she placed her hand on the door, a pattern appeared and the magic began. She looked at it and started thinking again. Today, I am one of those people. The door opened, and she stepped inside. She was astonished to see the library and began to think again. Last time, I was so focused on hiding from Bansies that I couldn't take it in. But it's so vast. It seems it will take quite a while for me to find the books and documents I need. There's one thing that's bothering me, though. Suddenly, a man came and asked, "Who are you? Entering this library without permission is forbidden. Are you the young lady who got invited by the Duke?" Then he said, "If you've lost your way, as the librarian I will guide you. But before that, may I know your name?" She replied, "I'm not lost. I came to this library because I have something to do." Cyrus, the librarian, the Smore family, loyal servants of House Lord Bell. They take pride in their legacy. As librarians, Cyrus, in particular, takes this pride to the extreme. He is unwaveringly devoted to serving House Lord Bell, valuing it more than his own life. In short, he's a fanatic. Then Cyrus shouted loudly, "What are you doing here? This is a revered place. Only those granted permission from that person may enter, of his bloodline or not. This is no place for someone who dares not breathe the same air as the family head. If you understand, then?" "Quickly," she said calmly. "It's funny, given the name I inherited from my father. I don't think you have the authority to turn me away, Cyrus. Wouldn't that mean you're blatantly defying the family head's will? If father were to learn about this, I wonder what he'd think of you. Wouldn't he be utterly disappointed?" Hearing this, Cyrus speaks. "Miss Lucia, about that, could you please hear me out?" Meanwhile, Bansi stood with his head bowed, his sword lying on the ground. He looked at his hands and speaks angrily. "Damn it, it's all her fault. Because of her, father." Hearing this, his asked, "Why would you draw your sword? Over something so trivial? I suppose you're still not aware of the position you're in. You have not yet proven you're a true, direct descendant. Make sure to keep that in mind," Bansi says. "Yes, I will. I apologize. Getting scolded by father. Because of that filthy girl. Lucia, I'll definitely make you pay for this. Just you wait." On the other side, Cyrus asked, "Lady Lucia, so, would you please hear me out?" Then he said, "I'm just a simple commoner who has sworn loyalty to the Duke and served him for many years, and more importantly, there is no way I would go against the Duke's orders. So, about what happened earlier." Hearing all this, Lucia says, "It was just a misunderstanding, right? I understand your loyalty to Lord Bell. Don't worry. I won't tell the Duke about what happened today. After all, I wouldn't want you to get into trouble over something like this." Cyrus said, "Thank you. I'd really appreciate it if you could do that." Then she lost. I never thought he'd turn his back so quickly, just to avoid attracting the Duke's attention. How pathetic. But still, if he's going to use the name, Lord Bell, as a shield, he should at least understand the consequences. He's timid, but if it's to protect this caste and his precious library, he's the kind of person who wouldn't hesitate to use dirty tricks. I'll be coming here often from now on, so I hope you don't mind me barging in like this. After a while, she bent down, picked up the book, and said, "Anyway, it seems we've cleared up our misunderstanding. There's no issue with me using this library, so..." Then she asked, "Cyrus, how about we go back now?" Cyrus was frightened. On the other side, Bansi's is looking for her. He saw her and said, "That girl, where did she go? As usual, she's a genius at irritating people." Then he recalled that normally, she'd be waiting outside my father's room all day, but now she's chatting with the maids to get their attention. At that moment, he smiled and speaks, "So, am I scared? Now that I think about it, she was completely out of her mind yesterday. Maybe she's actually afraid of that venomous snake? If I think of it that way, it would sense why she'd say that to me." Then suddenly he saw Cyrus and Ligrin standing there, and Cyrus said, "Sir Ligrin, why would you say something like that? It's the truth. Please believe me. That creepy child has entered the Lord Bell library, but that little girl won't just obey quietly. Before she left, she made it clear that I should never speak to her again." Ligrin, having heard all this, looked at his watch and says, "I understand your concern. You are in charge of the archives, after all. But for now, we won't pursue this any further. However, in the future be more careful with your words. As of today, the Duke has announced a new policy regarding the care of Lucia." Cyrus asked. "A new policy?" Ligrin replied. "Since you don't seem to know, let me explain. I've been instructed to relay this to all staff in the mansion. Once this policy is issued, Lucia Lord Bell will be moved from the 4th floor, where she had been staying, to a guest room on the 3rd floor. Additionally, all staff must treat Lucia Lord Bell with the same respect. Anyone who violates this will be punished in the Duke's name." Hearing this, Cyrus shocked and speaks, "If I remember correctly, the 3rd floor is where members of the imperial family and distinguished guests from other countries are welcomed. So, that girl is actually the Duke's. Ah, how rude I've been to her all this time." Suddenly, Sir Ligrin lost in thought. It makes sense to think that way. Just a few days ago, That child was treated like a maid after all. And then, everything changed in an instant. Then he recalled that she had said, "Mr. Chief Butler, if you don't mind, may I explain?" That girl who always looked so foolish and miserable. He recalled that again, she had said, "I am also a member of the Lord Bell family." She claimed to be a Lord Bell from the start, so, I guess. Does that mean she was noble blood? On the other side, Lucia had arrived at the library. She looks at the books and thinks, I guess it's not going to be easy to find after all. Of course, one reason is that there are so many items in the warehouse. No matter how much I search, I can't find anything related to evil gods. But I can't ask Cyrus to help me look for it. I'm looking for a book about sealing the evil god. If the Duke finds out about this, I don't know what will happen to me. For now, it's actually a good thing that Cyrus, who was questioning my motives, isn't at his desk. And thanks to that, I heard rumors that he hid it in a special storage room. This is quite a discovery. If only those who pass the eligibility test and are proven to be direct descendants can enter this room, then I might finally find some answers here. Then she closed her eyes and thought, in my previous life, I never even had the chance to take the eligibility test. Even if I had, there was a high chance I would have lost my life in the process. This time I'll clear it no matter what. But of course, it's a long way to get there. Suddenly, Bansies came and shouted loudly, I found you, Lucia. Did you really think I wouldn't find you just because you hid here? Too bad for you, finding you was easy. You have no idea how much trouble you've caused me. I was so angry I couldn't sleep. All because you got carried away and said all that nonsense yesterday. He stepped forward, held her by the hand, and said with a smile, I guess you are prepared for this because I'm the direct descendant. I'll teach you a lesson. She speaks. Ha! I can't believe I'm wasting this precious time on such nonsense. I don't know what you're going to do, but if you're going to do it, can you get it done quickly? Sorry, but I don't have enough time to deal with that sort of thing. Also, whatever you do, could you let go of my hand first? He let go of the hand. Then he think, what's going on? I didn't see this coming. She has always been a bit of a cheeky bastard, but this is just gonna ruin my whole plan. If it's true, I should at least show my generosity as a direct descendant. I was going to make her understand the difference about our positions. Looking at this, she begins to wonder. It's rare to see such a naive fool. I knew it, but Bansies really is just a kid. However, this can't be the end of it. I'd better buy myself some time. After a while, she stepped forward and speaks. I don't know what you're trying to convey to me, but shouldn't you use your head a little more? He asked. What do you mean? Then she asked. What if it gets ugly again, like yesterday, and it becomes a big deal? Head butler Ligrin and the Duke. I wonder what they would do. You know it too, right? Both Ligrin and the Duke said they would never forgive you if you repeated the same misbehavior. So instead of rushing of act, think carefully before you do. You don't seem to have anything to say back. If you will excuse me then. Hearing all this, he clenched his fist, lost in thought. Maybe she was worried that I would get scolded again. Otherwise, she wouldn't have said that. If it's true, I'd feel better if I was the one getting scolded. What on earth is she planning? I knew it. The shock of yesterday made her lose her mind? This is bad. This isn't the time to be doing this. If I go home like this, I'll just end up feeling frustrated again like I did yesterday. Suddenly, he shouted loudly. Wait! I'm not done talking yet. Who do you think you are to advise me? You think I'm going to thank you for that? Then he ran over to her and stood in front of her. Then he slammed his fist hard against the window and shouted loudly. Never! I'm the direct descendant, Bansies Lord Bell. If you understand, you'll just have to follow my lead quietly, and do whatever I tell you, she said. You really are a complete idiot. Why don't you have a look up there at the very least? He says. Huh! I'm an idiot? Just how far can you go? Up there. Then suddenly, books fell from the window. Seeing the books coming toward him, he fell down and started thinking. No way, did I get hurt by the books? It was too sudden, I couldn't avoid it. What the hell was that? How come I don't feel any pain? Of course, if a book that thick falls on your head. No way. When he opened his eyes, Lucia was above him. Seeing her, he said, Why did you? You are bleeding. From your head. She says. Bansies. I hate you, Lucia? Why did she? I just wanted to show her the difference between our positions, and then you. I just wish you didn't have to live in such a shabby room. After a while, the doctor arrived, examined her, and said, "The wound doesn't seem that deep. But her diet doesn't seem to be too good either. Apart from the medication, you should also watch what she's eating." "Excuse me," maid says. "Thank you for your advice. Take care." After closing the door, she turned back and saw Lucia lying on the bed. Lucia said, "So, summarizing what I've heard, you are Marine, my assigned personal maid. And I'm told that I'll be staying here from today onwards, in the guest room on the 3rd floor." Hearing this, Marine smiled and speaks. "Despite the confusion from yesterday's events, how are you so sharp, my lady?" "That's exactly right. The Duke announced it to all the servants yesterday, along with your room assignment. He instructed us to treat you with utmost care. And I, Marine, your personal maid, am fortunate enough to be able to serve you most closely. I'm new to being a personal maid, but I'll do my best to assist you. Please take care of me, my lady." Hearing all this, Lucia began to think. To think I'd be assigned to the 3rd floor, a place I never even dreamed of before, and even a personal maid. It seems even the Duke was quite shocked by the disownment. Huh! That fool Bansi's ruined everything yesterday. Well, this isn't such a bad start, right? A little while later, Marine led her to the dining table and said, "You must be very hungry, having gone all day yesterday without eating? The head chef took special care for your recovery, my lady. The doctor said you shouldn't have anything too heavy just yet, so we prepared something light." Seeing the food laid out on the table, Lucia suddenly fell into deep thought. What on earth is Marine talking about? This is a light meal? Until I almost fell into the abyss, what I ate was, before coming to the Lord Bell estate, it was routine to eat discarded food just to survive. What I was able to eat there was only cold, hardened bread and soup with a little mashed potato. I didn't have the luxury to care about taste, and even that, after losing my sense of taste, eating became nothing more than an act to sustain life. Suddenly Marine said, "My lady, look here. You should have said so sooner. You're having trouble eating alone because you're still not feeling well, right?" Hearing this, Lucia speaks. "What are you talking about? I was just lost in thought for a moment," Marine says. "Even though I'm a novice maid, I'm not that clueless. Now say When Marine took spoonful of food and was about to put it into Lucia's mouth, Lucia said, "That's not it at all. I can eat by myself." As soon as the spoon went into Lucia's mouth, she began to think. "The food, it's warm, not dry. And I can taste it." Then suddenly, Lucia started eating the food. Seeing this, Marine asked, "That means, my lady, did it suit your taste?" Lucia replied, "Yes, I think it was delicious." Then Marine said, "Oh my, I think it was delicious. Still, the chef will be pleased to see you finish the plate so cleanly. I'll go get some herbal medicine, so please rest for a bit, my lady." At that moment, Lucia speaks. "Oh my, I couldn't put the spoon down." Then she think, "Even though I haven't been able to eat anything since returning to the past, that was the most delicious thing I've ever tasted. And not just the food, but also the unexpected kindness of my personal maid, Marine. It made me put my guard down for a moment without realizing it. It's the first time since that day that someone has shown me such warmth. The only person who was on my side at the Lord Bell estate. And the only person I desperately wanted to see again." After a while, she got up, walked to the window, and stood there, talking to herself. "Thanks to that warmth, I was able to endure. So this time, I'll be the one to give him strength." Then she stepped out of the room, walked to the training ground where the soldiers were trained, stood there, and began to speak. "It's been a long time. Must be here, right? The Revenant from 5 years later. And Rixus, the first armament. It is known to be the strongest knight order on the continent. Lord Bell is where the magic knights train. Only the most elite magic knights gather there. It was a special place that was used by the first order of magic knights." As soon as she stepped into the training ground, her mind drifting into deep thought. As such, this place, located deep within the Lord Bell estate, is an absurd place for a child like me to be able to enter. However, I've never had an issue. How many times have I visited this place? Of course, it must have been more than I should have. The first armament truly lives up to their reputation. They're all very talented indeed. Through the oath ceremony, they learn the magic of Lord Bell. A technique that imbues weapons with magic. Magic Knight. Even if he's the only member of the Lord Bell's Knights, his military power is comparable to the commanders of the other knight divisions. Looking back, he truly is an incredible person, isn't he? Leading them. Suddenly, someone shouted, "It's dangerous. Move out of the way." She noticed magical lights approaching her and became frightened. At that moment, a man stepped in front of her and Sadie. "Were you frightened, my lady? Please give me a moment." He stopped the lights with his power, and the whole battlefield was filled with smoke. Then he stepped back and said, "You must have been scared, but you've done well. It's all over now. I told you that you didn't need to worry about it." He was Enrixus, first commander of the Lord Bell Magic Knights. A knight came and spoke. "Hey, is everything okay? Commander." The sparring became too intense that the excessive magical power went out of control. Another knight says, "I didn't expect a child to be in a place like this." Hearing all this, Enrixus asked, "Could you please cover your ears for a moment?" The knight said, "Commander?" Enrixus shouted loudly, "You guys are idiots. I've told you plenty of times that you need to be more careful when handling your magic. Do you have any idea what kind of disasters can happen because of it? It's just like before." The knights bowed their heads and said, "Forgive us, Commander. We truly did not expect the child to be here." Enrixus speaks angrily, "I don't want to hear any of your excuses." Then he asked, "Do you think having those thoughts would be useful in case of an emergency situation?" "He is extremely scary and strict with his subordinates," he said. "Our duty is to subdue the demons. Don't you know what would happen if you were distracted for even just a moment? You are the proud members that I've chosen and watched for quite a long time. So please don't take today's incident lightly." The knight says, "We'll keep that in mind, Commander." A strict man who has a gentleness in his heart. After the knights left, he asked, "My lady, I was so angry that I forgot to ask. How did you end up here?" Then suddenly he held his head and said, "Ha! No, the problem is what kind of parents let their child roam around in a dangerous place like this." She smiled and says, "As expected, it's warm." He speaks, "I mean, if my lady is fine with it, why don't we go inside first? This place is too dangerous to stand around. Let us wait inside the waiting room until we find your parents." Enrixus extended his hand, and Lucia held it and added, "I would love to." Enrixus speaks, "I've informed the guards to look for your parents, so don't worry too much about it. Forgive me. I would like to offer you something better while you wait, but I can only offer you a cup of green tea. This place is usually filled with sweaty soldiers." Lucia added, "Don't worry. I used to drink that kind of tea often." Enrixus asked, "You're already familiar with the taste of green tea? It's great, isn't it?" Then he smiled and says, "Haha, I know it is rude to keep you here, my lady. You must feel very unfamiliar and uncomfortable here. But you can relax a little bit while you're here, because there's no place safer than the Lord Bell's estate. Although my looks may not be convincing, I'm actually a very strong guy." Hearing all this, she began to think, "Every single word he says to me feels warm. It also makes me want to cry, because you are that type of person, while I can't be like who you currently are." After a while, she said, "First commander of the knights, Enrixus." Enrixus says, "You know who I am?" Lucia asked, "Why are you pretending not to?" "Answer me, Sir Enrixus," he replied. "I thought I was doing a good job pretending. Was it that obvious? As you said, I know exactly who you are. After all, no one in Lord Bell could claim otherwise. However, I wasn't trying to deceive you. It's just, I suppose I got angry without realizing it. Angry at Lord Bell's irresponsibility and cruelty. No matter what, the person sitting before me is just a child in need of protection. And yet when I heard how you've been living here, all because of some absurd adult circumstances, it always weighed on my mind. And seeing you today nearly caught in a terrible accident, it made me have presumptuous thoughts, that if I just turned a blind eye, maybe, at least in this place, you could find a moment's rest. Even so, it was wrong of me to deceive you." Then he stood up and bowed slightly, saying, "I apologize for that, my lady." Hearing all this, she lost in thought. Who would have ever imagined that the Knight Commander of Lord Bell would offer a sincere apology to a mere illegitimate child of the family? If it had been anyone else, I would have assumed it was a lie, just another trick to deceive me. But in the past, Ain had always been this way. In my previous life, I first met him when I was hiding in the corner of the training grounds, unable to endure the torment any longer. He had no reason to get involved, yet he came to find me. And without asking a single question, he spoke in a quiet voice. Then she recalled that, he said, "If you have nowhere else to go, come here. I'll always be waiting for you." At first, I didn't believe him. But every time things got hard, those words echoed in my mind. And when I finally went back deciding to take the risk, he simply said, "She recalled that again," he said. "I'm glad you're here." After a while, she says, "I'll accept your apology." Hearing this, he shocked and asked, "Really, my lady?" She replied, "But in exchange, I have a proposal." He sat down and said, "All of a sudden? Well, I did wrong, so I'll at least hear you out." Then he asked, "What is it you want to propose?" She replied, "Please become my swordsmanship instructor." Hearing this, he stood up in shock and asked, "My lady, did I hear that correctly?" She replied calmly, "If you heard me ask you to be my swordsmanship instructor, then yes." Then he took a long breath and said, "My lady, I didn't expect you to be so full of surprises. I do feel guilty about today, so if possible, I'd like to accept your proposal. But I just can't. I don't know if you're aware, but I don't take on disciples, and in this place, that's simply not an option for me. So I'll pretend I never heard your request." At that moment, she lost in thought. Ain refusing so firmly was a wise decision, considering his usual character. Looking after a neglected child of the family wouldn't be an issue, but becoming the personal student of Lord Bell's Knight Commander? That's an entirely different matter. If that student carried Lord Bell blood, the consequences would be beyond control. It would directly impact the successor dispute. After a while, he began to think, "If I were just an ordinary knight, I'd gladly teach you. Any disadvantages I faced because of it, I would wear them as an honorable badge of a knight. But, the moment the first knight command, take in a student, the aftermath would tear apart only the weakest. The struggles he faced to reach the position of commander, the greed and malice of those hungry for power, are darker and filthier than anything else. And if we're talking about the successor battle of a high-ranking noble house like Lord Bell, the days ahead would be nothing short of nightmarish." That's why he needed to make her give up completely. After a little while, she said, "I know what concerns you, but those worries won't be a problem. As an illegitimate child, I have no right to inherit the house, so the successor dispute has nothing to do with me. Besides, I'm not asking you to support me indefinitely, just 3 months. Only until the qualification exam in 3 months. You just need to train me until then. I know how busy you are, sir, so if you could spare just a little time, I'll handle the rest on my own. For now, I just need to build my stamina." He speaks. "Hold on. What exactly are you talking about? I just told you, I have no intention of taking on a student." Then he asked, "And why would I even accept such a proposal?" She replied, "I will find Isla's medical book. Then, perhaps you'll be able to cure your ailing daughter. That is the answer I can offer you, sir." Isla's medical book. Before Isla, who was called the Divine Healer, passed away, she recorded her medical knowledge in a book, a legendary, elusive tome said to make anything possible through medicine. Whether it truly exists was doubtful. However, Ain believed that if the book were real, it was most likely stored in the Lord Bell archives, where countless rare texts were kept. To save his daughter, who was suffering from an incurable disease, he joined the Lord Bell Knights, and to protect his daughter from any dangers that might arise in the process, he kept her existence a complete secret. After a while, he speaks. "Who are you, really? No, more than that, who the hell put you up to this? Dragged my daughter into it, and made you do something like this? Speak the truth. Speak the truth. Tell me before I do something I'll regret." He slammed his fist on the table and shouted loudly. "Right now," she said calmly. "Sir Rixus, your reaction is completely understandable. However, you must never let yourself react that way again. Think about why you've endured all this hardship." Then she shouted loudly, "Are you really going to throw everything away now, just because of this situation? Focus on only one thing." Then at that moment, she speaks calmly. "The fact that I can help you, and through that you can save your daughter. Even if you did rise to the rank of commander, you still would not have gained access to the restricted archives. That place is only accessible to direct descendants. I swear on the name of Lord Bell, I am the only one who knows your secret. I cannot answer all of your questions, but there is no malice in my silence. And please, allow me to help. That is all I ask. This time around, let me be the one to help you." There were only 2 choices to make: hold the line until complete annihilation, buying time for the citizens of the nearby villages to evacuate, or abandon the villages to their fate, retreat, and protect the knights instead. And at that crossroads, Aang chose to sacrifice himself to save both the knights and the citizens. Left alone, he stood against the enemy, buying precious time. Thanks to him, many lives were saved. Aang's words, "I love you, my precious daughter, cherish." But in the end, he could not save himself. The price of his noble sacrifice was a solemn and grand memorial in his honor, and his daughter, Cherish, was left abandoned without a word of explanation, left to die from illness and starvation. A tragedy that could not be blamed on any one person, just a relentless chain of misfortune. After a while, she began to think. The final words Sir Aang supposedly left to his knights, "Return home immediately," were never carried out, because those who followed him were too overwhelmed by grief. They just needed a moment to mourn. An unforeseen accident befell Cherish's caretaker, and the tragedy that followed was inevitable. But still, it shouldn't have ended like that. Why did someone who gave up everything, even his own life, have to suffer so much in the end? Why did it have to end in such a terrible tragedy? No matter what happens, I will stop it. I will become his hope, he thought. No matter how I look at it, this situation makes no sense. No one should know about my daughter, Cherish. There is no possible way. Even if someone did find out, there is absolutely no chance they could have linked it to my goal. Isla's medical book, because I have never told anyone about it. From the very beginning, is the girl standing in front of me really who she claims to be? Everything about this is throwing me into chaos. Why is she so sad? That girl, looking like she's about to shatter, why is she holding back such overwhelming sorrow? I don't understand. I should interrogate her. I should keep doubting her until the very end. After a while, he asked, "Maybe I've grown soft with age. Can you take responsibility for that statement? Are you truly saying you can give me Isla's medical book?" She replied, "Of course, sir. I will place it in your hands without fail." He asked, "But if you failed the direct lineage test, then what will you do?" She replied, "You don't need to worry about that, because my mentor was none other than Sir Enrixus himself." Hearing this, he started laughing and said, "I'll be counting on you from now on, Lady Lucia." Then, before we get into the main discussion, I think it would be best to first settle the issues between us. I won't ask any further about how you learned my secret. Everyone has things they wish to keep hidden, and having mine exposed is entirely my own fault. In fact, I commend you for the preparation you put into achieving your goal. Hearing this, she lost in thought. If he had truly intended to pressure me, there would have been no need to take on such risks. At that moment, he stood up and asked, "Young lady, didn't you say earlier that you were good at drinking tea?" She replied, "Well, I did say that. This is just too strange." Seeing this, he began to think, as expected, no matter how I look at her, she just seems like a child to me. A short while later, Enrixus entered the room where the training equipment was kept. As soon as he opened the door, Lucia was surprised. She looked around the room in shock. Enrixus said, "From now on, you'll be learning a lot here. Not just swordsmanship, but everything you need to pass the trial. As you know, the direct lineage trial is a test to assess the potential of the family's heirs, and overcoming it requires great physical strength and extensive knowledge. With your intelligence, I doubt you'll have much trouble with the academic aspects, but the real issue is your stamina. Stamina is something that's difficult to build up in a short time. You're probably going to struggle quite a bit in this area." Hearing all this, she speaks angrily. "Well, it's true that I've never learned swordsmanship before, and I can't exactly say I have great stamina, but I can practice several times more than others. At Lord Bell, no one really pays attention to me, so I have plenty of time. I'll practice hard every day, so I'm sure I'll improve. I know it'll be tough, but please bear with me just a little." Enrixus asked, "Young lady, what are you even talking about?" Then he lifted Lucia up and said to her, "Talking about progress and asking me to bear with it. I was simply discussing the challenges we're facing. You need to know what you're lacking in order to prepare for what comes next. Do you have any idea how many knights I've trained so far? Do you really think I'd train you without a plan? And you think I'd struggle over something that minor? I'm starting to feel a little offended here," she says. "That's not what I meant at all. I know you must already be busy, and I feel bad that you'd have to take time out of your schedule because of me." Then Enrixus added, "Well, like you said, one of the issues we need to address is time. So, young lady, why don't you become my official disciple? Not a temporary 3-month contract as you proposed, but a real master-disciple relationship, officially approved by the Duke. That way, according to Lord Bell's rules, we can formally allocate training time as part of your lessons. She speaks. But, if you take me in as an official disciple, it'll cause a lot of trouble for you, Sir Rixus. And more than anything. In the meantime, head steward Ligrin appeared. Seeing him, Rixus said, "You have come a long way to get here." Head steward Ligrin. Head steward stepped forward, then bowed and said, "Please excuse the rudeness of my unannounced visit." Rixus speaks. "Head steward, what do you mean by rude? Such words make me feel a little hurt." Then Rixus looked at Lucia, who was standing with her head lowered. At that moment he says, "Rather, why don't we move to a different location? This place is dusty and not suitable for a proper conversation." Head steward speaks. "I appreciate the suggestion, but let's save our conversation for later. I'm just here to sort a few things out today. You should know, young lady, due to your current reckless behavior, certain consequences have arisen." Lucia asked. "What do you mean?" Ligrin replied. "Marine, who couldn't even properly track your whereabouts, has been deemed irresponsible, and the deputy's day, which should have been spent on training, was wasted on such trivial matters." Hearing this, a knight asked to himself, What should I do?" Ligrin added, "Most importantly, you are wasting the commander's time. Do you truly think you have the right to do such things, young lady? The value of time is by no means equal. So stop causing trouble and prepare to return to your position. Even now, precious time is passing. And Commander, I apologize for the troublesome situation she caused today." Hearing all this, Rixus said angrily, "Enough. Let's leave it at that." "I think you've said enough, head steward. The issue here isn't with the young lady, but with someone else." Ligrin asked. "Someone else?" Rixus asked. "Why ask when you already know?" Then he said, "From the very beginning, it seemed like the Lord Bell family didn't care what the young lady did. Even the servants here behaved the same way. So the young lady simply acted as usual, and now you're turning this into a problem. The only thing Lord Bell has given to the young lady so far is not freedom, but neglect. To a mere 10-year-old child, no less. However, I know very well that such a thing could never be. I trust that you, head steward, would not have allowed such negligence to pass. I was simply trying to clarify, in case there were those who might misunderstand, but my words may have been a little harsh. The issue I'm talking about is with those people, you see. I apologize if I've upset you, head steward. But that doesn't mean the young lady did the right thing. The head steward came all the way here because he was worried." Then Rixus looked at Lucia, winked, and said more. "The reason the young lady could roam freely was because the mansion was safe. Right?" Seeing this, she smiled. Then she bowed her head and says, "I'm sorry, head steward Ligrin. I wasn't thinking straight. I'll be more careful from now on." At that moment, Rixus smiled and said, "I should have been more attentive. I apologize for causing trouble. Also, if you think the young lady is being a burden, then that's a misunderstanding. In fact, it's such a delightful day." Hearing this, he turned back and speaks. "I understand the commander's intentions well. I hope those intentions are for the sake of Lord Bell." It was quite late at night. Lucia walked behind Ligrin, lost in thought. "I expected to hear something on the way here. Is this how it all ends? Well, even if he's the head steward, he can't easily ignore Ain's words. No matter what anyone says, he's one of the key figures in the family. In a different situation, the head steward wouldn't have backed down so easily. But today, he was in a position where he couldn't do much. Meanwhile, he was also lost in thought. What Lord Bell has given to the young lady so far is not freedom, but neglect. If I had opposed Ain's words and escalated the situation, it would have meant admitting the truth to a mere 10-year-old child. That would have been a blow to the Duke's honor. In the meantime, Lucia bowed and said, "Thank you for seeing me off, head steward. I'll be sure to inform Marine later." He speaks. "I won't ask what you're thinking. However, pushing any further would be excessive. Be content with the improvements you've made. If you become greedy for more, you'll lose everything you've gained. Take this to heart. It's for your own good." Then he left. Hearing this, she began to think. Whether it's a piece of advice or a warning, I can't say for sure. But something felt different just now. Or was it just me? No matter what, I can't stop here. So far, the plan is going smoothly. In fact, I've even been lucky enough to receive the suggestion of becoming a direct disciple. But getting that position won't be easy. What lies ahead is Lord Bell's greatest obstacle. In the meantime, Enrixus opened the door, stepped inside, bowed, and speaks. Enrixus, commander of the Lord Bell Magic Knights. I greet the Duke of Lord Bell. Duke Ego said. So you mentioned you had something to report regarding a direct disciple. Enrixus replied. Yes, Your Grace. Duke Ego speaks. How unexpected. You never seemed interested in that sort of thing. Enrixus says. Haha, until recently, I hadn't changed my mind. But the moment I met her, I had no choice but to reconsider. She may not have exceptional physical abilities, but far more important than that, she has an upright character, unwavering determination, and a deep sense of insight. Could I really pass up the chance to be the mentor of someone with such qualities? She is destined to become a towering figure. So please, grant me permission to take the young lady as my direct disciple, Duke said. I didn't expect to hear something like this. She never seemed to have any interest in the sword. And to think the person you're talking about is my daughter. Hearing this, Enrixus lost in thought. No, not just unexpected, she was never even a consideration. To the Duke, those who don't meet his standards. Then he recalled that I had said that. Your Grace. Please, just hear me out for a moment. My name is Enrixus, and I wish to become a knight here. I will do anything. Please, just give me a chance. Duke asked. What is that thing doing? Why hasn't it been removed from my sight already? Because he saw me as nothing more than garbage on the side of the road. That day, he gave me an unforgettable memory, one that pushed me to claw my way up to this very position. I never expected him to grant approval so easily. If it comes down to it, I'll even put my commandership on the line. After a while, Duke said, Do as you wish. If that's your judgment, I'll trust it. He says, Your Grace? Duke speaks. The fact that you who have never made any requests of me before are now expressing your will. That must mean you found certainty in your decision. Teach her well. My daughter. Miracle. Hearing this, he began to think, Ha ha ha. Somehow, I knew it wouldn't be this easy. Just as I thought. From the very beginning, the Duke never once considered Lady Lucia as his daughter. Then he said, You haven't changed at all. Duke added, What's the matter? If your business is concluded, you should take your leave. He speaks. It's not Lady Miracle. The one I wish to take as my direct disciple is not Lady Miracle. It's Lady Lucia. Meanwhile, on the other side, Marine was helping Lucia get ready in her room. At that moment, Marine smiled and says, All finished, my lady? Please take a look in the mirror. Lucia speaks. Marine. Isn't this enough? I've lost count of how many outfits I've tried on already. Hearing this, Marine smiled and said, But, my lady, you look good in everything. I can't decide which one to pick. Just one more. Please, just one last outfit. Lucia added. This is really the last one. Marine says. Thank you, my lady. At that moment, Lucia lost in thought. I felt bad for making Marine go through so much trouble yesterday, but I'm glad to see she seems to be in a better mood now. As an apology, I've just been doing whatever she asks, which means I've been changing clothes since morning. But still, what is this strange feeling? Don't be nervous. It's just another step I need to overcome. Suddenly, Lucia said, I'll be going now, Marine. In the meantime, Lucia walked over to where the head steward and Bansies were standing. Then she bowed and says, Greetings, head steward. He asked, Hey, do you know how long I've been calling for you? She began to think. Ligrin being here is one thing, but even Bansies too? Just what is going on? At that moment, Bansies speaks. No, wait, that's not what's important right now. Lucia, no, you little troublemaker. Then he asked, Just what the hell have you done? What on earth did you do? Then he grabbed Lucia by the shoulders and spoke to her. For father to call me during office hours like this, something's not right. Did you hit your head back then and forget where this place is? Hearing this, she lost in thought. Bansies, why is he pretending to be concerned like this? Could it be that he feels a little guilty about the accident that day? If that's really the case, after a while, she smiled and asked, Do you really think that's the case, brother? How could someone from the Lord Bell family forget where this place is? Then she think, Just stop worrying. She added, From what I see, brother, have you forgotten where we are right now? Otherwise, you wouldn't be making such a loud noise in front of the Duke's office. Hearing this, Bansies asked, "This is really, what's the use of worrying about?" At that moment, head steward lost in thought. It's not a misunderstanding. Since that day, that child's presence has been gradually growing here. Even the smallest triggers can become the catalyst for change. If that child carries the bloodline of that person, this change isn't strange at all. However, you'll soon realize, it is the rising desire itself that has been burning you from within. After a while, head steward said, "It's not too late. And try to remember why this place is named Lord Bell." 10 minutes before the summons, Enrixa says, "It's not Miss Miracle. The person I want as my direct disciple is not Miss Miracle. It's Miss Lucia." Duke speaks, "You truly are an unpredictable person. Most people are easily swept away by their desires, like reeds that sway even in the gentlest breeze. But unlike those petty types, a man who can endure for a long time, to truly obtain what he craves, that is one of the reasons why you are in that position. So let me confirm this with you once more. Rixus, have you truly given this thought before telling me about it? Are you certain you haven't been swept up in a momentary sentiment, and stepped onto the wrong path?" Hearing all this, Abrixus lost in thought. It feels like standing on thin ice just before it cracks. Miss Lucia has been enduring such cold and indifferent glances every day. No, to express those feelings would only be arrogance. Then he said, "Thank you for reminding me, Duke. Thanks to you, I feel more certain now. From the very first invitation, I have upheld the inviolable responsibilities I've had as Lord Bell's Knight Commander. The commander of the Lord Bell Knights can have only one direct disciple in his lifetime. So please, allow me to take Miss Lucia as my direct disciple." After a while, Lucia and Bansies entered the room. Bansies says, "I have come to see you, Father." Lucia said, "I'm here to see the Duke." Then she lost in thought. This is turning out to be a bigger deal than I expected. After watching them for so long, I can tell. They appear no different than usual. But Ain is more tense than ever, and I can feel the Duke is showing more emotion than usual. I must not let this be in vain. This is a precious opportunity that Ain has created by risking so much. After a while, Duke asked, "Lucia, Lord Bell, you said you wanted to learn the sword, and you said that to Rixus, the head of the knights?" She replied, "That's right, Duke." Then Duke added, "Normally, I would punish you for your foolishness, but, at Enrixus's earnest request, we've decided to prepare a place to convince everyone. In 1 week, at the indoor sparring hall. There you must win through swordsmanship. To do so, you'll need a worthy opponent." Hearing this, she think, "Could it be?" Duke said, "Bansies, Lord Bell." He says, "What?" Duke added, "You are that opponent." Hearing this, Bansies speaks, "You want me to face her? What kind of?" Lucia, she has never even held a proper sword before. To schedule a duel with her in just 1 week. This makes absolutely no sense, no matter how I think about it. Duke said, "That's the weight of the position you seek. Did you truly believe you could obtain what countless warriors dream of with just a single word?" At that moment, she lost in thought. Amusing that you say such things with a straight face. When those of Lord Bell blood learned the sword, there was never a tradition of undergoing a trial in the first place. And you expect me to believe my opponent is Bansies? He may act like a fool now, but Bansies is already a swordsmanship prodigy, unmatched in his generation. To think of defeating someone who will become the head of the Magic Knight Order through sheer skill is absurd from the start. The moment we fight, I will instantly be overpowered. After a while, Duke said, "However, since the division commander strongly voiced his opinion, completely preventing even the sprout from growing would also be a great loss. Let me relieve you of this burden of decision. You may refuse the duel with Bansies. Even if you refuse, I will permit you to learn swordsmanship. However, your instructor will be another knight, not the division commander. If you recklessly insist on facing Bansies despite this, that will be your choice, and I won't stop you. But should you lose, you will never get another chance to learn swordsmanship here. I hope you make a wise choice." Hearing this, she think, "For me, this offer is a gift that won't come again." Then she looks toward Enrixus and says to herself, "I understand your position clearly." Duke said, "Then let's conclude this matter with a simple procedure." Enrixus asked, "Procedure? What do you mean?" Duke replied, "Just hearing the girl's opinion, that's all. If that girl shows the same firm determination as you, then there should be no problem." Hearing this, and Rixus became angry and lost in thought. This is all my fault. I should have demanded a definite answer, even at the cost of blood. But I felt relieved at the last moment, not realizing this was exactly what the Duke had planned. Because of that complacency, the young lady is now forced to make a cruel choice. If she avoids the duel, she'll bear the guilt of betraying trust and the mark of treachery. If she chooses the duel, where defeat is certain, her only opportunity disappears. Whichever she chooses, it will fulfill the Duke's wishes regardless. After a while, she speaks. First of all, I will never forget this overwhelming opportunity, and your generous consideration, my lord. Thanks to you, I was able to make a decision more easily. I accept the swordsmanship duel with Bansies. Hearing this, Bansies was shocked and asked, have you gone mad? Father went out of his way to give you this opportunity. What kind of nonsense are you spouting now? She replied, My brother, you are right. His lordship has generously given me this opportunity. But the main reason I want to learn swordsmanship is because of First Knight Commander Rixus. Moreover, since he believed in my potential and went to such lengths for me, it's only right that I show equal effort. The commander was the only one here to believe in me, which is why I chose to trust him. This is my answer, my lord. I shall prepare for the duel with Bansies. Meanwhile, a voice echoed through the Imperial Hall. Checkmate. A young man was playing chess with another man. At that moment, a servant stepped forward and whispered into his ear, A small incident has occurred in House Lorebell. That child has agreed to the swordsmanship duel. The man opposite him was very frightened, he said. It seems it's time to conclude this entertainment. Something more amusing than your frightened face has appeared. Man says, Please spare me. Just let me live. Please spare my life, your Imperial, he said. We shall meet soon, my precious one. He is Vedel de Navarpadal, Crown Prince of the Empire. A short while later, Lucia returned to her room. Marine speaks. Ah, miss, is what you're saying really true? The reason you were urgently called to the Duke's office was not just for a swordsmanship duel, but, and your opponent is Master Bansies? Lucia added. It's exactly as I said, Marine. It turned out a little different than I expected, but it happened that way. Marine says. Miss, this is no time to be speaking so casually, Lucia said. It's okay, a duel. Then she began to think. As expected, this kind of reaction is probably natural. After all, I received such an unreasonable demand. But because of that, there's no choice but to go through with it. What I want is, it's something that can only be obtained through such injustice. And most of all, suddenly, there was a knock on the door, and Rixus entered. I'm no longer alone. At that moment, Rixus stepped forward, bowed, and asked, Miss Lucia, could you spare a moment of your time? Lucia replied, Of course, Captain. Then she said, Marine, could you prepare a fresh cup of tea for the captain? Marine replied, I'll prepare it right away, Lucia said. The captain has a unique taste, so please make it a very bitter tea. Marine speaks, Yes, right away. Please wait just a moment. Then Lucia says, Captain, you can speak comfortably now. It will probably take a while to find something that suits your taste. He smiled and added, I was trying to manage my expression, but did it show that much? I thought I was doing all right, she said. I think I know the reason behind your expression, and what you might say next. Don't blame yourself, and don't apologize either, he says. Ah, miss, she speaks. This is a meaningful moment that the director has created, with the resolve to lose a lot, because of the kindness and sacrifice you showed for the outcast child whom everyone turned away. I am now able to move forward toward the next step. So, the only thing the captain will say to me right now is this. Trust me. Then she asked, Can I trust you? Master, he replied. I will live up to that expectation, Miss Lucia. Then I'll get straight to the point. Miss, there is no possibility of you winning against Master Bansies. No matter what method you use, this fact will not change. Master Bansies' talent is real, and we are absolutely out of time. Hearing this, she says, But we can't just sit still, he added. Of course, if it were a normal duel, that is. Hearing this, she shocked and asked, What? Are you saying the rules of the duel have changed? He replied, That's correct, miss. Since the Duke started being unreasonable first, isn't it only fair that I do the same? Here's what I managed to secure through negotiations. Magic use is absolutely prohibited in the official duel. To prevent any serious injuries, protective magic will be cast on the duelists. The victory condition for Bansi's Rodbell is that the tip of his weapon touches Lucia Rodbell's neck or chest. The victory condition for Lucia Rodbell is that the tip of her weapon touches any part of Bansi's Rodbell's body. Hearing all this, she shocked and asked, "The Duke, he actually accepted these terms?" He replied, "Who am I? I'm your teacher, and I can manage this much." Then she thought, "These are unexpectedly generous terms. Of course, beneath this, the Duke must have done a lot of calculations. By accepting Ain's unreasonable conditions, he intends to further deepen his debt to him, while trying to prevent both sides from falling into a greater rift. Even if he gives me such a handicap, he must have been deeply confident that Bansi's would never lose. But that arrogance, trying to gather both practical benefits and justification, it's uncertain what kind of result it might lead to. And to that man as well." Then she goes into a flashback. She says, "Mage Corps Commander Enrixus, now resting here. She is standing in front of a grave, crying. A man is standing beside her holding an umbrella, and he says something to her. Then he turns back and smiles. Lucia was getting angry. He came into his room. Suddenly, Bansi's came and shouted loudly, 'This is bad, Zieghardt. Father told me that in a week, I have to duel Lucia. He's putting the approval of her first knight's direct disciple on the line.' Seeing him, he said, 'Ah, so you've finally arrived, young master. I've actually been waiting for you. It's about that matter.' Hearing this, Bansi's asked, 'What? Then you already knew about the sparring match?' He replied, 'Haha, of course, young master. It's a significant matter related to you, after all. And since it's a sparring match, isn't it only natural that I pay special attention to it? After all, I am your swordsmanship teacher.' He is commander of the 2nd Magic Knights Division, Zieghardt Maulid. Zieghardt Maulid speaks. 'Oh dear, how embarrassing. Sorry you had to see me like this, young master. I rushed here immediately after finishing training with the Linnet members.' Hearing this, Bansi says, 'It's fine. It's not like this is the first or second time. If you've already heard the news, then I don't need to explain further, right? Honestly, I just don't get it. Why would Commander Ain choose that girl as his direct disciple instead of me? Besides that Lucia, why would she ignore the easy path and make such a nonsensical choice? I don't understand that either.' Then Bansi's asked, 'Zieghardt, do you perhaps know why?' Zieghardt was silent. Bansi said, 'Zieghardt?' Then Zieghardt replied, 'Well, young master, since both of them come from the lowest class, the very bottom rung, perhaps it's something unique to them. Some kind of shared understanding, perhaps. I don't know what those two are thinking, but I can at least appreciate the Duke's intentions.' Then Zieghardt took a paper out of his coat and, handing it to Bansi's, said, 'These are the rules of the sparring match.' Bansi's was surprised to see it. Zieghardt added, 'They are not something you would see in a typical duel. You could say the conditions are quite skewed. Therefore, rather than seeing this as an ordeal imposed upon them, it should be interpreted as the Duke's way of assessing your qualities.' Hearing this, Bansi's asked, 'Assess my qualities? What do you mean?' Zieghardt replied, 'Young master, looking at those rules, did it ever occur to you that you might lose to the young lady?' Then Bansi speaks, 'Huh! That girl beating me with just this? That's ridiculous,' Zieghardt said. 'That is precisely the point, young master. The gap between you two is overwhelming, and the Duke is well aware of that. In that case, when the outcome is so obvious, there can only be one reason to escalate things this far: execution. Eliminate those who don't know their place, those blinded by vanity, those who dare covet what they shouldn't. He has entrusted that grave duty to you, young master. He intends to see that illegitimate child thoroughly trampled.' Hearing this, Bansi says, 'Father entrusted such a duty to me.' Then, in anger, he crumpled the paper in his fist and asked, 'Zieghardt, can I really live up to father's expectations?' 'What should I do?' Zieghardt replied. 'What is there to worry about? Am I not right here beside you, young master? For now, rather than swordsmanship lesson, it seems I should teach you how to properly handle those beneath you. It's time I taught you that.' On the other side, Enrixus told Lucia that, no matter what noble excuses are made to justify it, the essence of martial arts is to inflict harm. Therefore, you must never forget its true purpose, and always remain vigilant. If one becomes consumed by the temptation of violence, they turn into a monster, and the tragedy caused by such monsters is far too horrific. Hearing all this, she said, I will never forget today's teachings. Thank you, Commander, for bestowing these golden words upon me as my guide. Hearing this, he smiled and says, with such an intelligent disciple, I suppose there is nothing more to say. All right. Let's conclude the theory lesson here. Shall we move on to practical training? To win, you must first understand both your enemy and yourself. Against young Master Bansies, what advantages do you think you possess? She speaks. If we're talking about advantages, then only the favorable rules. It's frustrating, but in terms of stamina, skill, and overall ability, I am lacking in every practical aspect of this match. He added, unfortunately, that is how everyone sees it. Not just us, but them as well. Then we have to devise a plan. Since they're so certain of victory, their pride and arrogance will become their weakness, and that weakness will be the key that will bring us victory. Well, I might have said it trying to sound cool, but to summarize, we will turn their carelessness into an opportunity, and to make the most of that opportunity, we will conduct thorough analysis and relentless repetitive training. Hearing all this, she said, analysis and repetitive training? He says, first, let's clearly define the situation you have found yourself in. Thinking about unfamiliar situations you haven't experienced often leads your thoughts down a negative path. Rather, doing so makes it more likely to cloud your objective judgment. If you're not careful, it essentially means you're cultivating your own enemy. Let's, for a moment, put aside the fact that it's a sparring match. If we focus on your face-off with young Master Bansies, wouldn't it be correct to see it as a match, where you only need to land a single successful strike? If we define the situation like that, the weapon you need to choose becomes clear. After hearing all of this, she was shocked and said, Commander, surely not. Then he added, what the young lady is thinking is correct. You will use a spear, not a sword. Of course, it's a temporary measure just for this spar, but right now, there is no better weapon than this. She speaks. I can guess the intention behind choosing it, but there's no way the Duke would permit that. Then she lost in thought. Ah, don't tell me. For Lucia Lorbell to win, the tip of her weapon has to touch any part of Bansi's Rodbell's body. So that's why he proposed that condition? At that moment he speaks. I know what you must be worried about. However, you won't be at a disadvantage for using a spear. Not only have I made arrangements so the rules aren't violated, but since the Lorbell family is fundamentally a martial family, they don't rely on having an advantage in weaponry. In fact, the spear is a weapon favored by many magic knights, so if he were to make an issue of this, it would be the Duke who finds himself in an awkward position. She began to think again. Having someone on my side is such a great reassurance and source of strength. If Ain chose this with such conviction. After a while she said, Please start right away, Commander. In the evening, Lucia was sitting in her room with Marine. The room was quiet, but Lucia's lost in thought. I wish I could continue training through the night, but he strongly advised against it, saying even this difficulty is part of the training, so there's no way around it. And besides, even if I want to be stubborn about it, my body can't keep up anyway. I already need bandages just from holding the spear a little. If I can't move my body, then I should take the time to review what I learned. The decisive reason Ain recommended I choose the spear is because of its much longer range compared to swords. To attack Bansies with a sword, I would have to get in range of his attacks, which, given the large difference in our skill levels, that would only give him the opportunity to overwhelm me. However, if I'm wielding a spear, the situation changes slightly. I can secure a safe distance and attack Bansies safely, from a distance where Bansies' attacks can't reach. I can both defend and keep him in check. Furthermore, because Bansies has little experience sparring against a spear, it will also be easier to create openings. Looking at it this way, it's true the situation is advantageous, but that only applies if the skill difference is moderate. As someone who held a spear for the first time today, there's no way I can defeat Bansies easily. So by the day of the spar, I have to master everything I learned today. If merely the hardship and pain of training can become the stepping stone to pulling them down, then I shall welcome it wholeheartedly. Therefore, I will absolutely overcome this, and show them. Lost in thought, she fell asleep in Marine's lap. Marine gently lifted her and laid her on the bed. Then she lost in thought. Young lady, she must have been so exhausted. If I had my way, I'd put an end to this ridiculous situation right now, but In that moment, she remembered that Enrixus had said, "There is only one thing you must do while you're by the young lady's side. Focus entirely on her recovery and nutrition, and attend to her to the best of your ability so she feels no discomfort." I had said, "That's obvious," and watch over her silently. Enrixus speaks, "Your sweet reassurances and pitiful gazes, as her direct attendant, are of no help to the young lady who must fight. Think carefully about what is truly necessary for the young lady's sake, and what kind of retainer you should be." Marine was sitting next to Lucia, and then she spoke. "I am aware of that too, but truly being able to act for her sake is a luxury only someone who has the right to do so can afford. For me, I do not have much choice." The next morning when she woke up, it was raining. She was standing in the veranda to avoid the rain, and then she got lost in thought. What should I do about this? It was clearly fine when I left. Who would have thought it would suddenly pour like this? If I go back to get an umbrella, I'll be late for training. Should I just run through the rain? Then she suddenly started moving forward. Zieghardt was standing in front, and he said, "I was wondering who was moving about so busily from early dawn." "Ah, it was you, Lady Lucia." "Oh dear, I'm late in introducing myself. I am from the 2nd Magic Knights," she says. "I know. The commander of the 2nd Magic Knights, Sir Zieghardt Malid." Then she smiled and asked, "How could I not know who you are?" She think, "I could never forget you." In that moment she remembered that he had said this when she was standing near his grave. "I heard you were close with Captain Ain." I can't even begin to imagine how great a shock this must be. As if secretly raising a girl of unknown origin wasn't shady enough. He was even around the same age as you, wasn't he? Isn't that a truly disgusting fetish? That is the true nature of Enrixus, the man admired by all. And you, lady, were just toyed with by that commander. I'm honestly glad he's dead now. Hearing this, I shouted loudly, "How dare you say such a thing? Mocking the two who have died. You garbage who sneers at the dead." After a while, he smiled and says, "Judging by your attire, I suppose you're on your way to a sparring match? Our young master is also training hard for a match with you. The two of you serve as excellent motivation for each other. The future of the Rodbell family truly looks bright. That's why it pains me so deeply. A duel with an outcome no different from being predetermined. And yet, the reason for forcing this absurd duel, isn't it Captain Ain's despicable scheme to cement his own position? By exploiting the pure heart of a young lady like yourself? If by some miraculous luck you happen to win, all the praise would go to him. And if you lose, well, it was a hopeless battle from the start, so no one would dare blame him. Help me!" Hearing all this, she lost in thought. Just how many people has he deceived, toyed with, and looked down upon, to be able to spew such revolting words so casually? To rise to where he is now, he must have trampled over others with countless disgraceful acts, all for his own safety and gain. A monster who harms others without the slightest hesitation. "Thank you, for making me so sure of what you are." Then she bowed and speaks, "I'm simply honored that someone as busy as the captain would care so much." Hearing this, he smiled and said, "Are you suggesting that I serve under you? I'll have to decline your generosity." She added, "I believe you already know very well who's the best in the house of Rodbell. The captain of the 1st Magic Knights, Enrixus," he added. "Like teacher, like student indeed. Even the arrogance of not knowing your place." Then she asked, "Sir Zieghardt, what are you?" He replied, "Listen. Do you know what people like them truly need? Fear. That's the only deadly medicine the ignorant ones require. And I believe you, young lady, could use a dose of that medicine too." At that moment, Enrixus came and shouted loudly, "Now get away from her at once! Zieghardt, didn't you hear me say, get away from her immediately?" Zieghardt smiled and said, "Wah, such amusing events from early morning. Well, Captain, it seems there's been a misunderstanding. First, let's calm down. I merely happened to meet the young lady by chance, and exchanged a few words. Isn't that right, Lady Lucia? Besides, a small and cute young lady was sheltering from the rain. As a knight, I couldn't just walk past her, could I? Even in your eyes, she appears perfectly fine, doesn't she?" Hearing this, Enrixus says, "Young lady, is he telling the truth? If he has done anything that might have endangered you, please tell me. I will make sure he pays the price." Then she lost in thought. I already had some idea. I've seen before that Ain and Zieghardt don't get along. But, even so, Ain wouldn't react this emotionally without reason. Even though he saw with his own eyes that I was fine, he still asks like this. That's why. I mustn't let this man take the lead any longer. A meeting at dawn that can't be brushed off as mere coincidence. And though I may be an illegitimate child of House Rodbell, even with the Duke personally issuing an official order to improve my status, the murderous intent he exuded toward me was intense. All of this was probably part of a meticulously crafted plan. After a while, she speaks. Captain Zieghardt is right, Captain. He kindly chatted with me while I was sheltering from the rain, and even gave me advice. Hearing this, Zieghardt began to think, how would you look at that? She's stopping the situation I stirred up from getting worse. Is that really the illegitimate child I used to know? This is more like someone who resembles the Duke the most, even similar to young Master Estio. It doesn't look like they'll bite the bait anymore either. Any further would just be a waste of time. After thinking for a while, smiled and said, It seems the misunderstanding has been resolved. May I take my leave now, Captain? Then Enrixus bowed and says, I will formally apologize for my rudeness today. He added, It's fine, Captain Ain. A first disciple is bound to be especially dear. I understand how you feel, and it was a truly meaningful time for me as well. Then I shall take my leave now, my lady. I'll see you on sparring day, 2nd Division Captain. Then, as soon as Zieghardt left, Enrixus ran up, grabbed Lucia, and said, Are you truly all right? If you only went along with this situation for my sake, please tell me, even now. I'm really fine. She smiled and added, Really, nothing happened. I just had a short conversation with Captain Zieghardt about sparring. And before long, you came to see me like this, didn't you? Then he softly says, I'm relieved. Truly relieved, she said. Captain. Zieghardt was moving forward when he suddenly fell into thought. What on earth happened between those two? Now that I think about it, no matter how much I provoked him, he used to ignore me. But seeing him so agitated like today, that's the first time since that day. It was definitely a few years ago. Ain back then lost a subordinate and fellow trainee he cherished most, under the pretense of an accident, during a sparring match. That day, he was left paralyzed from the waist down. Then he recalled that. Ain shouted loudly, Zieghardt, I won't let you get away with this. I'll never forgive you. Yes, it was only on that day. That was the only time Ain ever showed such weakness. He suddenly opened the door, and when he saw Bansies, he gestured to him. Then he began to think again. This might just be a golden opportunity in this sparring match. A chance to completely break him down. On the day of the duel, everything falls into place. Lucia and Bansies stand face to face. When the announcer calls out loudly, His Grace, the Duke of Lordbell enters. Miracle Lordbell was also with the Duke. Everyone bowed and said, We humbly greet the head of the family. Bansies lost in thought. I must not disappoint father. Miracle Lordbell, full of excitement, walked toward Bansies and hugged him, saying, Big brother. Bansies asked, Miracle, what brings you here? Miracle replied, I heard Big brother was going to duel today, so I asked father if I could watch. You have to do your best in the duel. Bansies asked, Of course. Who do you think I am? Miracle smiled and replied, Lucia, you make sure to do your best too. Lady Lucia stood silently, watching everything. At that moment, Enrixus stepped forward and said, My lady, show them. Show everyone here the kind of person you are, the kind of existence you are. Both of them stood facing each other in the arena. Then head steward Ligrin stepped forward and says, Before we begin, I will explain the rules of this duel. As previously stated, protective magic will be activated to prevent injuries. These necklaces will shield you both from harm, so you don't need to worry about pain or wounds. Now, the conditions to win this duel are: the young Master Bansies must strike Lady Lucia's neck or chest with the tip of his blade, and Lady Lucia just needs to land a single strike on any part of the young Master's body. Since you both seem ready, we shall proceed to the next step. Then Ligrin snapped his fingers and said, These are the weapons, selected by your respective captains. Weapons are presented. A tense silence follows. Once the weapons have been inspected, the duel will commence. Bansies raised his weapon and smiling says, Hey, check it properly. Don't come crying later that your sword was faulty. Hearing this, Lucia added, What? This isn't a sword, it's a spear? Is there a problem, big brother? He shouted loudly. Are you seriously asking that right now? You said you were learning the sword, how can you be holding a spear? Is that even allowed? She says. That's for the head of the family to decide. Not you, brother, he said. Ligrin speaks. Compose yourself, young master, as the young lady said. This is a matter for His Grace to decide. At that moment Duke said, No rules have been broken. Let us proceed. Then Ligrin says, I will not entertain further objections regarding the fairness of the weapons. There is only one thing you both must remember. Fight in a way that brings no dishonor to the Lord Bell family. Now then, let the match begin. Then Bansi said, Lucia, so you're really going to go through with this farce? This is so absurd, I can only laugh. Just because you're holding a spear, you think you can beat me? Even now, if you beg Father for forgiveness, he might show you a shred of mercy. Hearing this, Lucia began to think. Arons was right. He's completely untrained against spear wielders. He's already stepped into my range. I can do this. At that moment, Bansi speaks. Hey, are you even listening? That's the only way you'll ever learn to use a sword. This is your last chance. Suddenly, Lucia placed a spear against his neck and think. I can win this, he began to think. What is even happening right now? Did I just get hit first? By Lucia Radval, and by the slimmest margin. If I'd been even a second slower, the match would have ended right there. I almost lost? That doesn't make any sense. None of this makes any sense at all. This is impossible. Then suddenly, he raised his sword and struck, but Lucia stepped back just in time. Then he says, Lucia, you're a natural at making people furious. Just how little did you think of me? You dared to point a spear at me instead of running away? She speaks. You sure talk nonsense with a straight face. This isn't a game of tag, remember? And besides, your defenses were so obvious. I just gave you a little poke. You seemed quite surprised. Sword genius, brother? Hearing this, he shouted in anger. How dare you? Then he attacked. Lucia stepped back and began to think. Things are unfolding just as planned, especially for someone as prideful as Vansis. When it comes to martial arts, this kind of humiliation is bound to make him lose his cool. Lucia is thinking while continuing the duel with him. Drawing Vansis into my rhythm. That's where my strategy begins, because every step of this is laying the foundation for my victory. Miracle stood there watching everything, then told Duke that, You're both amazing. Especially Lucia, she's going head to head with her brother. Duke said, Miracle, sit down. You might get hurt. Miracle says, Okay, father. And Rixus was standing beside, watching everything, and then started thinking, My lady is performing far better than expected. Even if it's a calculated, focused strategy, actually executing it in real combat is impressive. It shows how determined she is to win. My lady said she still had one more trump card prepared. But if this drags on any longer, on the other side, Zieghardt is thinking, the young master will win. His initial carelessness and Lucia's unexpected skill with the spear caught him off guard. But that was only a temporary surprise. No matter how hard those insects rack their brains, to the young master who's already adapted to the situation, her rushed, clumsy spearwork means nothing. Then, due to a strike from Bansi's sword, Lucia's spear broke. Seeing this, Zieghardt began to think, It can't even touch him anymore. Then he said, Not only did I stoop to fight you seriously, I even disgraced myself in front of Father. I hope you've understood by now. Your chances of defeating me no longer exist. Consider it your life's achievement landing a single hit on me. That in itself was nothing short of a miracle. But I'm done letting you play now. Hearing all this, Zieghardt began to think again. The young master is instilling fear in her. Even if she feels no pain due to magic, if he keeps attacking everything but her neck and heart, the psychological pressure will exceed physical pain. Then he added, So, give up this duel now, and beg Father's forgiveness for your foolishness. That is your best option, and the only mercy you'll get from House Radval. Lucia Radval. Then she lost in thought. I regret my past. I resent my foolishness, the attention, the affection, or at the very least, a shred of warmth. I craved it, begged for it. All those days I cursed them. After a while she said, Don't get it twisted. This duel isn't over yet, and there's no one here pathetic enough to be grateful for your so-called mercy. Then he says, Yes, this is who you are, foolish Lucia Radval. Then Lucia suddenly stepped forward to attack, so Bansi said, You brought this on yourself. Hearing this, she think, I know. At this rate, all that awaits me is defeat. Not only can I no longer reach him with my weapon, even if I could, I've lost the upper hand. And Vansis, he already knows that. But precisely because of that, now this very moment is the time. He threw his spear down and rammed into him, causing his sword to fall, and he said, How do you? She continues thinking, right when Vansis Rodval believes he has secured victory. That is when I play my final card. As soon as Vansis fell down, Lucia placed the tip of her spear on his neck and thought, This duel belongs to me, Vansis, he said. No, this can't be happening. If you hadn't brought that up earlier, there's no way I would have fallen like this. Not if I had known. Then he began to think, what is with this girl's hand? Why is it in such a wrecked state? With magical shielding in place, there's no reason for him to be injured. These are wounds from the past week of non-stop training. Then she lost in thought. She truly pushed herself that far. At that moment, he said, It's my loss. Hearing this, everyone was shocked. And Rixa says, My lady, this can't be. Miracle speaks. Father Lucia defeated brother. Father? Then she stepped forward and said, Render your judgment. Please declare your decision for this duel. My lord. The Duke stood silently, watching her. At that moment, she lost in thought. With the situation now diverging from the Duke's plans, time is no longer on my side. If he so wishes, he could find fault in the smallest detail, and declare the entire match void. That's why I must receive a clear verdict now. Duke, you've made a mistake. The man I know wishes to remain the image of a perfect father above all, especially in the eyes of the one he cherishes most. Miracle. So say it. With your own lips. Acknowledge my victory. Admit your defeat. Suddenly, Commander Zieghardt fell to his knees and spoke. Forgive the offense of interrupting. The Duke's silence. She think. Commander Zieghardt? Zieghardt said. However, I judge this moment to be beyond the point of no return. I am Zieghardt Malid, second commander of the Magitech Knights Division. I respectfully request to speak regarding the outcome of this duel. Please grant me a moment to speak, before judgment is passed. Seeing this, Vansis began to think, Zieghardt, what in the world is he trying to do now? After a while, Duke said, Second Commander, you are granted permission to speak. Zieghardt speaks. Thank you, Your Grace. While it seems that Lady Lucia has achieved victory in this duel, given the nature of the matter, we must consider not only the result, but the process as well. I won't raise the sudden appearance of the spear as an issue. It was approved by Your Grace, and does not violate the rules. However, from another perspective, from the moment the spear was damaged mid-duel, it was no longer capable of landing. A proper strike is required by the written rules. Therefore, one could argue that the match was already decided. At that point, suddenly Enrixa said, Commander, that is nothing but twisted logic. The condition for victory was clearly defined, and Lady Lucia, well aware of it, displayed ingenuity in the final moments to secure her win. Zieghardt added, First Commander, I fear you've missed the true issue. It seems like the first manager doesn't know what the problem is right now. Do you see this duel as mere child's play? For a member of House Rodval to show such negligence in the upkeep of their own weapon, it's unacceptable, and even more so if they bear the Duke's blood. Hearing all this, she lost in thought. Such desperate rambling, all to twist the narrative. If that's the logic, how would you explain Vansis losing grip of his sword at the end? The second commander already knows his argument is baseless. The second leader knows very well that his logic is far-fetched. It's all just a performance, to give the Duke an excuse to overturn the outcome, because it's just a sahau to give the Duke a reason to overturn the victory. Then Duke said, Enough. I will permit no further debate. A verdict will now be rendered. Zieghardt Malid, from a respectable line long loyal to House Rodval, a man of sufficient skill to command the 2nd Magitech Knights Division. Despite his youth, his nature may be arrogant, his conduct cruel, but I admire his ruthless determination. He spares no means to get what he wants, and appointed him as Vansis' mentor. There was no better model to teach the cold-heartedness required of a ruler, but perhaps I expected too much. Vansis' complacency and indiscipline have become irreparable, and for whatever reason, he now hesitates at every step. Thought none of this has gone as planned. After a while, Duke said, the condition for victory was clear. Lucia Rodval has fulfilled it in this match. Once something is no longer of use, it must be discarded. Any who stir dissent regarding this ruling will be deemed in defiance of House Rodval, and will be executed on the spot. Lucia Rodval, this duel is yours. From this moment forth, I appoint First Commander Enrixis as your new mentor. Hearing this, Enrixis bowed respectfully, said, I humbly accept. Then she think, the rest can remain bound in the chains of false hope. After announcing his decision, the Duke stepped forward with Miracle. Miracle looked back and saw Enrixis happily lifting Lucia. 1 week later, during the morning, Lucia awoke with a surge of emotions. She got ready, and as she stepped out of her room, she fell into thought while walking. A week has passed since the duel concluded. A few changes have taken place in my life. The first being, the servants now treat me in a completely different manner. To them, I am no longer a scorned illegitimate child, but seemingly one of the potential successors. Servants bowed respectfully and said, Good day to you, my lady. Maids bowed respectfully and says, If there's anything you require, please let us know. She continues thought, knowing the true reason why the Duke has kept me here makes it all sound utterly ridiculous. Well, maybe this isn't the worst situation to be in, and among the most welcome changes. Seeing him, she smiled and said, Good day, Brother Vansis. She began to think, is that Vansis no longer bothers me lately? Yes, keep brooding in silence over your defeat. I won't be needing anything from you for quite a while. Helping House Rodval isn't exactly to my liking, but trash that needs disposing must be flushed out thoroughly. Meanwhile, Anaxarus went to the Duke while the Duke was looking at some papers. He said, From now on, Lady Lucia's education will focus on solidifying her foundational knowledge. We shall request adjustments to her overall routine accordingly, the Duke said while signing. With such a thorough curriculum and detailed plan from you, I trust the progress will be sufficient. He says, Thank you, my lord. I shall do my utmost to instruct her well. Then Duke stood up and speaks, and there is another reason why I summoned you here. There's a task I would like you to handle personally. I hope you will rise to meet my expectations. Hearing this, he started thinking. Until now, the Duke has only ever given me assignments related to the First Order. For him to entrust something directly to me now, it must be a mission of great significance, one that must not fail. Then he said, I am listening, my lord. Duke says, It will likely hold personal meaning for you as well. It concerns the dismissal of Sir Zieghardt Malid from the Second Order. Hearing this, he shocked and speaks, If this is a result of the recent duel, I believe this decision is too severe. If that is the case, I beg you to reconsider. Duke added, Reconsider, you say, despite bearing the weighty title of mentor to House Rodval's heir. Zieghardt Malid failed to provide proper instruction. He only stifled Vance's potential. If that is the only result he can present, then it would be more beneficial to hire a stray hound as a mentor. I see no merit in reconsidering. The successor for the position of second commander has already been chosen, so fret not. Hearing all this, he began to think, Yes, House Rodval has always been this kind of place. This serves as a warning to me as well. At that moment, Duke speaks. The decision with House Marlide has already been finalized. All that remains is for you to ensure the second commander leaves without incident, he said. I understand, my lord. However, I must express one concern. Removing the second commander may not only lower morale within the Second Order, but could also provoke backlash among the troops. It may even lead to internal unrest if grievances find no outlet. The Duke put his hand into his coat and said, That is not a concern. Then the Duke took out a diary and handed it over. Seeing this, Enrixis asked, What is this? On the other side, Zieghardt is going crazy with anger. Then he broke a glass bottle in anger and said, Lucia Rodval. She resolved the issue herself. Expulsion. He had a piece of paper in his hand on which something was written. As of today, House Marlide expels Zieghardt for treason against House Rodval. Order of banishment. Then he says, And as if that weren't enough, they've stripped me of my position as well? Do you know what it took for me to climb this far? Then he suddenly shouted loudly, Are you saying all my efforts have been erased by some brats' childish antics? What the hell kind of trick did you pull? What did you do to make his grace discard me like this? Enrixis. Meanwhile, Adair Noven's bribery ledger. This ledger, which will be discovered in 7 years, becomes the catalyst for the bloody purge in Rodbell. Adair Noven, who is in charge of military trials, this ledger contains records of bribes received from many individuals. It was found in none other than Rodbell's library. Only a few people are allowed to enter, and the vast number of books made it hard to locate. It caused even more trouble for the Duke. Lucia was sitting in the room, lost in thought. Originally, there was no way that ledger would end up in the Duke's hands. I passed it on, although I had no intention of helping with the cleansing work in Rodbell. But I have no intention of finishing it so easily either. Based on the Duke's personality, he'll use this as an excuse and deal with it mercilessly. The document contains details of the crimes committed by Zerlak Mallet to cover up his wrongdoing, including various corrupt acts in detail, including the incident where Ain's comrade was made unable to wield a sword again. At the time, because of his position as Bansi's master, it was quietly settled by just stepping down. This time, it's hard to expect any mercy. On the other side, Jelark shouted loudly, "What kind of trick have you played? What trick did you play that the Duke would discard me like this?" Enrixis speaks. "I simply came to fulfill my orders according to the will of the Duke of Rodbell. Jelark, I didn't carry out any tricks you might think of, and I, in this way, had no intention of tying the knot of our bad relationship." Hearing this, Jelark said, "Even now, are you still spouting paranoid nonsense? The incident that happened with your comrade in that duel was just a misfortune. How long will you keep dwelling on such petty matters?" Then he began to think. That incident was just a misfortune that a lower-class person brought upon themselves for not understanding their own place. He said again, "You should actually be grateful to me, right? With such pathetic skills, thinking you could become Rodbell's sword. I woke you up from that delusional dream. I'm sure that's why Rodbell military trials were finished with a light punishment." Hearing this, Enrixis clenched his fist and gave a substantial amount of money to military judge Adair Noven to cover up the things you did. Not only did you abuse soldiers, but also filled the second knights with cronies using unfair methods. You wouldn't deny knowing about these things, would you? Hearing this, Jelark shouted loudly, "Are you now trying to slander me with such nonsense? It's obvious that you used that wicked tongue to deceive the Duke. I'll go directly to the Duke and tell him about this matter." Enrixis said. "This is what the Duke said." Jelark asked, "What does that mean? Do you still not understand?" Enrixis putting his hand into his coat, then replying, "The Duke has already finished all investigations, and has secured evidence of the bribe ledger that Adair Noven meticulously wrote. This is the letter of delegation from the Duke to entrust your punishment to me." Enrixis, handing over a letter, said, "From now on, Jelark Mallet will give up all his titles and quietly leave Rodbell. He will have to ask for forgiveness from all those he hurt, and spend his life in regret for his wrongdoings. This is the punishment I'm giving you, and the last mercy for the once protector of Rodbell, the second captain." Then Jelark speaks, "Don't talk nonsense, asking for forgiveness to vermin, let alone lower-class people." He suddenly drew his sword and said, "You dare speak of mercy to me?" Enrixis began to think, "So this is the choice you make in the end." Then he recalled that Duke said, "If Jelark Mallet refuses to follow the orders and resists, he will be regarded as an enemy, threatening Rodbell, and I will give orders for immediate execution." As he attempted to strike, Enrixis ended it with a single blow and said, "You are making a cowardly choice to the very end." Scandals always stir the interest of many and spread quickly, but soon, like nothing ever happened, they fade away and are forgotten. Rodbell was no exception. The mansion stirred for a moment, due to Adair Noven's bribery ledger, but soon it was dismissed as a trivial matter, and peace returned quickly. Meanwhile, she went to Ligrin. He said, "You've arrived. Please have a seat." She says, "Yes, butler." Then she lost in thought. "I started taking regular lessons from Butler Rygrin. As a reward for discovering the bribery ledger, the Duke granted one request. Rygrin requested that I pass a test to receive regular lessons, and I proudly passed the test and secured my qualification. In fact, without going through such a troublesome procedure like the test, I could have just asked to be assigned to Rygrin from the start like the other children. But to pass the direct line qualification test and to prepare for the real battle afterward. I must not walk the same path, to drag them down to the abyss. By taking lessons from Rygrin, I have now met all the final conditions to take the direct line qualification test. The next step is to earn his genuine recognition and support. Then she wrote something on the blackboard. He speaks. Because you've followed the lesson well today, we have some time left. I will end the lesson by delivering information on a recent issue in the theological community. This matter may directly or indirectly affect you, so please listen carefully. She replied. Yes, Butler. Then he said, as you know, the Empire's theology has been developed based on one theory of return. In simple terms, it is the idea that after death, humans return to the embrace of the divine and find rest there. For a long time, no one has questioned this. It has been accepted as a universally valid truth, but recently, records have been discovered that not only deny the theory of return, but also criticize the doctrine of the temple, making the situation delicate. Theory of soul succession. The human body is merely a vessel for the soul. The idea that the soul repeats death and birth, and that its karma is inherited. It is entirely contrary to the existing theory of return, and is causing a stir in the religious community. Then he asked, do you understand why I am telling you this, and what my intention is? She replied, a single word from anyone using the name of Rodbell carries the weight of gold. To observe the upcoming direct line qualification test, many distinguished guests are gathering at the mansion, and among those guests, there are several high-ranking priests who hold great power in the religious community. In the Empire, religion is one of the great powers supported by many. If someone from Rodbell's circle shows interest in such absurd theories as the theory of soul succession, it will create unnecessary tension between us and them. Therefore, my answer is decided. Rodbell does not change. I judge this with my limited understanding, Butler, he said. It was the perfect answer. Let's end today's lesson here. Thank you for your hard work, young lady. At night, she lies on her bed, lost in thought. As Rygrin said, the theory of soul succession is currently being rejected. Soon, it will be suppressed for violating sacred theology, a foreboding existence, just like me. But what kind of storm that ominous existence will cause, I know. Later, the theory of soul succession will be recognized as truth by the next pope. I was afraid of fighting, and it will overturn everything that exists. Unlike my past self who turned a blind eye and ran away, I will fight to the end and claim victory over the world. The author of the theory of soul succession manuscript, Lucia. In the past, I was ashamed of myself, and I turned away when my name was mentioned. But this time, I will not back down. A crow sitting on a tree branch outside was watching her, and then it flew away.